It's easy to retreat into my own mind because the outside world often feels emotionally unsafe and frustrating, incapable of satisfying my deeper needs. When reality feels painful or disappointing, my mind creates an internal space where those needs can be met. Because of that, I feel as though I have spent much of my life living inside my head rather than fully engaging with the real world. Hiding can be a pleasure until you have to live in the real world and realize that this habit can cause you to lose touch with your genuine feelings and live more through internal representations than through actual real experiences. I often have the impression that I have missed out on many experiences because I was already living inside my own mind. The reward I get from my inner world often feels greater than what I get from reality. Fantasy can become so engaging that it starts to interfere with everyday life. Sometimes I wonder whether I do this because I feel incomplete or unhappy, or whether it's simply a habit that I have been reinforcing since childhood. The problem is that when taken too far, it can lead to isolation, procrastination, and dissatisfaction with real life. There are positive aspects too. I consider myself quite creative, especially when it comes to writing, but at the same time, it can make me crave experiences that exist outside reality rather than within it. Perhaps that's why some people have told me that I sometimes seem distant when they talk to me. The truth is that I am distant. Often I would rather be on my own world or sleep. I like sleeping. I have the feeling that in my mind everything is under control, where in the outside world I can get hurt. It's not something I constantly think about, but it helps explain why I can feel so upset when something happens to me and it seems so unnecessary and unfair. For example, a few days ago I was supposed to meet a colleague at a certain time and I arrived 10 minutes late. Of course, people have their own life and schedules and they take responsibility for being late. This is terrible. However, when I arrived, she was saying things like, everyone always have to wait for Stacy. Everything has to be done on her terms. She was saying this in front of other people and seemed extremely frustrated. I apologized, but what really affected me was when she said that I always do this to her and to other people. And I asked, well, have I ever actually done this to you before? Later, we spoke again and she admitted that nobody had ever complained about me regarding that issue and that she had exaggerated. Well, but by then the damages had already been done in my mind. What I could not stop thinking was, why was so much anger necessary? Yes, I was late, but her reaction made me think that everyone must secretly dislike me. What is happening? And in reality, the situation was probably more about her than it was about me. My immediate thought was that if the roles had been reversed, I would not have reacted in the same way. People make mistakes, and these things happen. Another thing that makes me want to retreat into my mind or sleep is having to deal with social predators. People who note qualities such as empathy, kindness, honesty, and compassion and then try to take advantage of them. This often happens when you are emotionally vulnerable or struggling. Sorry. This often happens when you are emotionally vulnerable or struggling. Some people seem to sense that vulnerability and look for ways to benefit from it. Sometimes they want money, attention, sex, validation, entertainment, or simply the satisfaction of seeing someone else suffer. Having to deal with people like that is exhausting. That is one reason why being alone can feel so appealing. Uh, it's comforting to disappear into my fantasy, daydreams, my world. Even when difficult people appear there, I know how to handle them. In my imagination, I always know what to say, what to do, and how the story ends. And in that world, I always win. Sometimes I think of a quote by Machado de Assis. It's much better to be content with reality. If it's not as brilliant as dreams, it at least has the advantage of existing. I do not always like reality, and I often find my inner world more comforting, more interesting, and easier to control. But reality has one thing that fantasy will never have, never will. It is real and it can actually be lived.